Well, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, August the 27th, the 230th day of the year. There are 136 days left in the year 2024. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, looking ahead as we move into the fall season, hopefully it will cool off all over and we will avoid any major weather incidents. I was in Oklahoma this past weekend. It was 102 degrees and it was hot. It was real hot. So football starts this weekend, September. I hope your team wins, unless they're playing my team. September is our anniversary on TWT. We'll be around 4 years, thanks to the team. We make it work and we enjoy it. And a giant thanks to the team, Barbara, Michael, Sean, Emily, Joyce, and Barbara. They make it run. And of course, we appreciate you, the audience. I'd like to tell you about Esther and Norma. Esther and Norma. Well, I'm going to just cut to the chase and say that Esther and Norma are servers in the dining room at the Hilton Garden Inn in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Esther and Norma are sisters who migrated from Mexico, and they make your heart soar. They were so happy to serve their customers, hustling from one table to another with the biggest smiles all over their faces. They love their job. They were wonderful, man. If all servers could give that kind of effort and enjoy it, they made breakfast a joyful occasion. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Norma. What were we doing in Oklahoma City? Well, November is Native American Heritage Month. The state of Oklahoma has 39 Native American tribes spread throughout the state in some fantastic museums that feature Native Americans and history. We'll put that show together and have it for you during the fall. Today's show will be a roundtable discussion. Barbara Wallace Edwards is out today, but we have a very capable replacement, and her name's Barbara as well, Barbara Pitts Larkin. We want to welcome Barbara to the show. Our G-list guest today, it's a roundtable discussion, and you, the audience, has your turn to pitch in and say what you think, say what you feel, and we'll go from there. So our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. So let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Is a solution that fits your needs. So let's go to the round table. And we have Barbara Pitts Larkin joining us this morning in the replacement of Barbara Wallace Edwards. We have two Barbaras. We have one Barbara that can substitute for the other Barbara, and Michael Walker. So good morning, Barbara and Michael. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning, TG. Good morning, Barbara. Doing well. Hope you two are doing great.
So, Barbara, let's start with you. So I was in Oklahoma this weekend, and you, first of all, thank you for joining us. Tell us, now, you've been friends with Barbara Wallace for a long time. I ain't gonna say how long.
Long time, yes. We met while I was working at Auburn, and that friendship has just blossomed and grown. And even though I got married years later, she was my best. She was my best mate. Well, my maid of honor. So she was in the wedding with me, and we just been working and caring for one another all along the way. So it has just blossomed, and I'm grateful for that friendship, and I'm grateful that we both have the same name, so you all don't ever have to adjust by calling someone else by another name. It's always Barbara. And thank you for inviting me and asking me to come. I am thrilled to be here. I enjoyed the both of you, and I always look forward to our conversation.
Well, Thank you for being here. So I was going to ask you, we were talking a little bit about, I was telling you about Oklahoma, but what did you tell us what's happening in your world this morning?
Oh, wow. Well, I was thrilled to hear about Oklahoma because, that's my alma mater on a graduate basis. And that was the first time I'd ever gone to a college football game at the University of Oklahoma. It was wild.
Was it?
It was. And I was hooked, and I have been hooked since then. But with them coming to the SEC, I'll have to wear a little bit of red now and then, but I still hang with that orange and blue now. Don't get it twisted. I still hang with the orange and the blue.
Okay.
Let me just say my summer has been great. Probably the most wonderful thing we did, my husband and I did some international travel. We went to Panama in Panama country and saw the Panama Canal, which was thrilling and amazing. And we got back a couple of weeks ago from Spain and Portugal, where we traveled on the Douro River and went through 5 different locks. I thought this lock business in Panama was amazing, but you're standing on the sideline watching it. But when you actually are the one that's going up and down in the locks, that was quite thrilling. So we had a great time.
So now that's something new for me. So explain that up and down. What do you?
Well, depending on whether you're going upriver or coming downriver, will determine. You get into like a little box for when you're on the Douro River. Now, when you're in Panama, it's huge, and you've got probably 3 tourist boats, maybe a sailboat, and then you've got this humongous tanker that's coming in. And what happens is when they come in, they're up high, but because where they're going from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, they're up high, but now they've got to go down to get to the level of the Atlantic Ocean. So they have to drain the water out, and you see this huge ship that's up high, and all of a sudden you're now eye level with the people on the top of the deck because they've lowered all the water out. Then they open the gates, the water comes in slowly, and they all travel out. It's the most amazing thing. Engineering phenomena.
I'll have to see that because
You have to experience that, Tom.
That's I'm having a hard time picturing it. And I see Michael was frowning as you were talking, so I don't know.
Well, of course, that's simplistic.
Yeah, I was just I was just imagining that when you were talking about that, draining the water out so that the ships could go down enough to pass through that. I was just trying to visualize that myself.
Well, I did do a video of it because I was simply amazed. And the thing that really, really inspired me was that once the tanker gets ready to come into the lock, they lose all control. On the sides of the land that's the lock, you've got what they call mules, and these are small but very powerful. They call them mules, but they're small, powerful. They look like what do they call those bulldozers that pull. They're connected, 2 in the front, this huge ship, and they are pulling them into this lock because you only have a little bit of space. And so they're pulling it into the lock. And when the people stopped and got out of the mules, they were all women. I was absolutely surprised. They had their little backpacks and coming out, and I thought, well, really? And there was silence because the women will direct themselves on mules by using bells. And so that nobody can talk. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That sounds amazing. I'll have to see. So you say you got video of it? Are you going to bring us some video at some point and let us see
I'll
it?
bring it. Yeah,
It's great.
I'll bring it. Well, we'll probably see each other sometime this year, and I'll share it with you because it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for all this process to happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
but Panama's a short trip. You got to go.
We'll get with Sean and get her to put it up on
Okay.
do an edit. And,
okay. That'd be
great. I think we'd like to see it. I think probably the audience would like to see it. That'd be
True.
great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Michael, What's happening with you this morning?
Well, there's a lot of things that's going on in the news, and there's talk from time to time about what's called a frivolous lawsuit. And
Mhm.
I don't know if this was necessarily be classified as a frivolous lawsuit, but I certainly found it to be unusual. A computer executive, 66 years old, with a bladder ailment, sues for $1.5 million after he was fired for urinating in Times Square hotel lobby.
Damn.
So this guy, evidently he has some type of disability, and it is recognized with the Disability Act. And he was out on a business trip, well, actually a conference, and the restaurant back to the hotel was about 12 blocks. And this condition comes on, and he has to go to the bathroom continuously. He said he had to go to the bathroom 5 times during the dinner and stuff. And then walking back from the restaurant to the hotel, by the time he got back to the hotel, he was having an emergency and he wasn't able to get up to his room in time. So he tried to go find like a column or somewhere to relieve himself. And in the process of doing that, one of his colleagues from Lenovo saw that and reported him. And 4 days later, he was fired. No
Mm.
severance, no opportunity to talk about it. And so he's suing his company for $1.5 million. And he's saying they were very much aware of his disability that he had. And he said, as a matter of fact, some of his colleagues would poke fun at him because so many times. And supposedly he was one of the star salespersons and had increased revenue by over 200% and was a model executive. And he has not been able to find another job or what have you, but that the company he's been working there since 2016 and the company knew of this. And his lawyers are saying his disability didn't impair his ability to do his job. And it's just something that he suffers with. But he has been terminated. Now, he wasn't arrested.
Okay,
And
that was key.
yes, the hotel people did not arrest him. So no issues there. It was just from a colleague that reported it. And now he's out of a job. He's 66 years old. So he's getting to that point where you don't really get a job once you turn 65, So now he's out, and it's because of this disability. I found it interesting that his lawyer didn't ever say what the disability was, but it's a chronic medical condition that causes him to urinate frequently, and he receives treatment for it from a urologist.
Yeah.
So it's documented.
And if he's on certain pressure pills, they make you go, and you go frequently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's not the first time I've heard of guys getting in a situation where they have to go, and they have to go right then.
Right. As we get older, our bodies change.
Yes.
And so our needs change. And as I was sitting here listening to you, Michael, and what you were saying, and thinking about my legal training about frivolous lawsuit, there's several points that he has. His age, then his medical condition, and the knowledge that they had, and his performance. He may have a very good chance. He may. I don't know what the laws are in New York. I have no idea. But the key is that he was having treatment. They knew about it. These are key points. And the fact that he was not arrested, or the hotel did not complain. The average person would say, well, why didn't he have on Depends? But this is something that's really chronic, and he's receiving treatment for it. And like Tom said, sometimes medication that you have can cause you to do things that you didn't know. But he knew, what else could he do? What would be his remedy for that if his doctor had not already given him as much as was available? And with that kind of performance that he had, you would think that they would be bending over backwards to keep him on as long as they could with that kind of 200% increase performance.
Right. And when you think about it, as you mentioned, he wasn't arrested, so there was nobody complaining of indecent exposure
That's
or,
right.
anything like that to
Right.
say that he was just doing this intentionally. So I don't know. That's a real sticky one there. When you think
Well,
about
and
that.
it also depends how he did it. Did he just stand there and urinate on himself, or did he openly expose himself? Those are questions that they will be asking, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Need to
And
ask.
even if he had, usually in most places, the person who reported him is an adult. So at the most, he would have had a misdemeanor. From an adult being exposed. Had it been a child, it could have been a felony. Probably would have been. Yeah.
Mm.
But again, I don't know New York law, so I'm not sure how they would do that.
Yeah.
Well, you did good enough then. Thank you.
Yeah.
This lawyer. We got
Very limited, very limited. My husband is the one, not me.
that's right. Your husband is a lawyer. Tell your husband I said hello. Tell Tony thanks him for for you being on the show. I ain't gonna say let you come or allow you.
Well,
We
thank
don't,
you.
Watch out, Tom.
we don't let y'all do nothing no more. Y'all let
Not
us do
anymore.
stuff.
But you know what? We always have to let each other know where we are. That's important, Yeah, it is.
You're right. You're absolutely. So you went to the University of Oklahoma. Tell us about that.
It was a wonderful experience. I loved every moment of it. When I graduated from undergraduate in Missouri, not at the University of Missouri, it's a very small conservative Baptist school that I went to, very sheltered. When I graduated from there, the very day I graduated, I said, I don't know. I'm not ready to work in the real world. I don't know what to do. So I said I bargained with my mom and dad. And so I got into University of Oklahoma for a 1-year master's degree program. And the gentleman who was head of the master's program, called the Master's in Human Relations, I loved it. He was from Alabama, right down the road from Opelika in this little
Wow.
yeah, and we became fast friends. And of course, his one of his former students was a cousin to a very good friend of ours, and I went there for a year. My roommate was Sylvia Karamian. Sylvia was Cherokee, and we would stay up and talk about the history of the Native Americans and African Americans, and we are still talking today, 50 years or more later. And her husband was from Iran, because during the 70s, a lot of students from that part of the world came to study engineering. And so his name was Mohammed. He loved Muhammad Ali. That's all he would talk to me about. I'm like, Mo, you got to talk about something else. But we all became fast friends, and we reunited probably earlier this year. I just called her up and said, okay, Sylvia, it's Barbara. And so when she called me back 2 days later, her husband said, I know that voice. That's Barbara. I said, I couldn't believe it. So that experience, the food was great. They had the best food I'd ever had in a college setting. There were lots of so many African Americans, so many people from all over the world. It was a great experience. 1 year, but it changed my life. It really did.
Great. Yeah. I had been through Oklahoma.
Okay.
My wife and I did a cross country trip when I was in Los Angeles, and we decided to drive cross country home. And so we drove through Oklahoma and went to the memorial where the building was bombed and all those children were killed.
Yes.
And that was very moving. And Robert, my travel companion, hadn't been, so we went by the memorial so he could see it and read about what they said happened. And that one's still a little bit of a mystery as to what actually happened. But it was interesting. So we went from I guess Oklahoma City is kind of central Oklahoma.
It is. It is.
We went north, east, and west, and visited museums. We went to the Five Tribes Museum. We went to the Cherokee Museum. We went to the I can't probably pronounce it wrong, and I don't have it in front of me, but it was very eye-opening, very educational. The Native Americans probably made the mistake of welcoming the Europeans, and they decided they just wipe them out and take what they wanted.
Yeah, and they introduced a lot of diseases that really killed off a lot of Native Americans that, they didn't have those kinds of diseases that came from Europe. So they were punished it took some hits in all kinds of ways. Yeah, all kinds of ways.
It was, we went to a celebration, what probably some people call a powwow. And man, it was great. I mean, they were dressed all up in
yeah, I love that
regalia,
feathers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
doing the dances, and the drums would play, and the guy would make some kind of call over here, and they'd come out and dance, and for just maybe for a couple minutes, and then they'd go back, and then they'd sit over here for maybe a minute, and then they'd come back and do it. Yeah, it was awesome. It was very, very worthwhile. So look, I tell you what, why don't we let Sean do Got a Minute, and we'll come back and we'll discuss some more since we got some time. Sean, you got a minute for us, please?
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. It's the last week in August, and I don't know where the time went or where it has gone. Do you? Well, anywho, do you like music? Does anyone know who Eva Boyd was? No? Well, no worries, because I'll tell you. Eva Boyd was a 17-year-old who scored her first #1 pop hit with the song, The Locomotion. Her success certainly came from abundant talent and a great capacity for hard work, but it also helped along the way for her to be at the right place at the right time. Eva Boyd had newly arrived in New York City from North Carolina and was looking for work when a neighbor in Brooklyn pointed her towards the job that ended up changing her life. Working as a nanny for a young professional Manhattan couple, Jerry Goffin and Carol King. Jerry and Carol thought that Eva did such a great job running their household and caring for their infant daughter that they would let her pick up a few bucks recording some demo vocals.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. I know you get to like it if you give it a chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. My little baby says I can do everything. It's easier than learning your ABC. So come on, do the locomotion with me.
Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Okay, the locomotion. I remember the locomotion.
Indeed.
Okay.
That era of music has to be the golden era of music. During that time, I guess you could say maybe the 50s, 60s, and 70s, especially when Motown came in.
Oh wow.
We just don't have music anymore like that.
Well, for one thing, they could sing.
Yes.
That was the requirement back then. You had to be able to sing.
Oh yes.
I think about my mom. Man, my mom, she loved Perry Como and Neil Diamond and all these type guys. You know, that was her. Robert Goulet. I mean, she'd buy. You know, you'd buy the CBS records would come through the mail.
Yes.
Record clubs and whatever. And that was what she loved. And you know, we liked James Brown and all that. And she didn't care for James Brown. And now it's like it's flipped. And it's like, you know, can these people actually sing today? I mean, most of them don't sing. They rap or whatever, but they don't sing. And so it's just kind of run its course, I guess, and come back around. But,
you know, and it's funny, the music at that time, it resonated with you. You could actually feel it. You know, you could feel what the person was singing about, you know, and it's almost like you could live it with them. And nowadays, it's, you know, I get to the point now where all I do is listen to talk radio because I don't get anything out of the music anymore that's being played on the radio and stuff, and unless I'm going on what's that Sirius XM radio, and I can go back and pick up music like that.
Yeah, you're so right. So right. And, you know, I just say God bless the mothers who raised their children on the Temptations and James Brown, because my great niece, when she was 6 years old, I put on some James Brown and that girl started dancing across the floor and knowing the words. I said, wait a minute, how did you learn it? Oh, Mama plays that all the time. I like James Brown. I mean, it was so funny. So, you know, if you're a person who has music in your house, like your mother did and my mom, I mean, I love Robert Goulet and Nat King Cole and so many others were favorites, but I also liked our music too. So, you know, that blending, I think is very important to keep a variety of music before your children, because it's a way of relaxing and being able to have sweet memories that you can call upon.
Yes.
Well, I thought it was interesting in the Olympics how they were able to merge yesterday and today in terms of music, in terms of the talent of people that they put up. I think they did a good job, you know, and I remember when rap started, you know, in a lot of ways, it was very offensive to women. And now the women are some of the leading rappers.
And it's very offensive to men.
Yeah, it's like, what has happened? Where is all the love and the music that gets you moving, and even though it was, you know, Locomotion, that was really probably a very simplistic song, but the music was good and her voice was good and there was a lot of movement in the background. Now it's just somebody running across the stage screaming, and what are they saying? You don't want to know.
Oh man! Well, I saw where Isaac Hayes was back in the music news. Isaac Hayes apparently wrote "Hold On, I'm Coming," the song that Sam and Dave made, and the Trump campaign was using that song, and they made him cease and desist. So
that's what I like: cease and desist. I like that.
Yeah, that happened with another song too. I read that somebody sent him a note and said, cease and desist. You can't use this either. You know,
I think it's happened on it more than just two. I think it's happened. I don't know why they would do that and not ask for permission, but
because they feel they can. I'm rich. I can do whatever I want to do. That's the.
Well, you know, speaking of Trump and this political season.
Yes,
it is so interesting.
I think you were waiting on that opening there.
He was. He was waiting for that.
Segue. That's a perfect segue, Barbara. You were reading my mind. You know, I find it amazing how many different factions there are that are trying to open the door and usher Trump into the White House again. It's amazing. There's an organization called the National Federation of Republican Assemblies. And what they have done is they have gone back and they have cited an infamous 1857 Dred Scott Supreme Court decision to say this is the reason why Kamala Harris is ineligible to be president. What the Dred Scott Supreme Court decision is saying is that any enslaved person that is not born of U.S. citizen parents cannot be president of the United States. So in other words, and they cited in here that they were saying Nikki Haley was not eligible to be president. Vivek Ramaswamy, the guy that looked like Woody Woodpecker and stuff that was running, they're saying none of those people are eligible to be president. And now they're trying to say because Kamala Harris' parents were not born of the U.S. when this Constitution and stuff was put in place, she's not eligible to be president. Really? You going that far back to try to help Trump get in?
Well, the other key point, Michael, that you talked about the parents were not U.S. citizens, but it all said any enslaved person. She's never been enslaved. Her parents have never been enslaved. So how are you going to meet both of those that test on both of those? Slavery has, even though a lot of the tentacles are still around, but slavery itself has been 1863, 1865. Okay, so what's the point? Anything that they can pick up that will throw doubt into people's minds. Doubt. I think that Michelle Obama spoke very clearly about that in her speech, where she said that they sought to make people fearful of Michelle and her husband. And she just said, "What's that about?" But she said the issue is the same for her as it is for Kamala Harris and her husband. You've got highly educated, hardworking people who are successful who happen to be Black or Asian, and they don't like it. And that's the problem, unfortunately. And that was in her speech, that because of they had those qualities, they felt they should not be president and first lady. And this is what we're facing again.
Yeah, you got it. Barbara, you reminded me of something, and I got 2 points to make on that. When you brought up Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, I was having a conversation with a guy over the weekend, and we was talking politics and stuff. And he is a guy that, well, first of all, I'll say he's of European descent. He's of Caucasian ethnicity. But he was talking about some of his friends, and that when Barack Obama and Michelle met after Michelle's speech and they fist bumped each other, he said he had some people to call him and say, "See, that's their plan. They taking over. The Black people are taking over. They gave a fist bump on the stage." I couldn't help but to laugh. I said to him, now see, that's the element of people in our society that I say are real supportive of Trump. No matter what he does, it's okay. They're willing to look away. And I say, if they have the mentality to think that just a fist bump between Barack and Obama, that's an indication that Black people are trying to take over the world or the U.S. I say, how ridiculous is that? That's nothing more than got started with the NFL. When the players came off the field, they were fist bumped. And I said, think about this now. Didn't Joe Biden say fist bump during COVID? Everybody was fist bumping during COVID because they couldn't shake hands, right?
I was just going to ask a question. When me and my friend, my travel buddy, Robert, left each other, we fist bumped. So what did that mean? He's a white dude. So what did that mean?
You are taking over him. That's what it is. You are taking over Robert. Robert is changing. He's not going to be Caucasian anymore. Watch out, Robert. I guess that's what it is. I don't know.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. He and I just both laughed. I say, how silly is that? I say, if that were the case, why would they do it on stage in front of everybody if that was their plan? Okay? Would you do that? because somebody would figure it out, just like these
Yeah.
mental giants did.
Mental giants. I like that, mental giant.
And the other thing, Barbara, you guys were talking about when Michelle said that 2 highly educated African Americans and stuff. It's funny. I used to have a T-shirt that had a big danger sign on it in red and black letters, and it says "Danger, educated black man."
Oh my goodness.
And the
Oh
looks that I would get when people would see that, and I was just doing it just for the effects, but that takes me back to what they were saying in their speech, and I get that, and a lot of the people, and I say it's a lot of people that feel like they are now disenfranchised because they may be uneducated, they may live in a rural area and what have you. And I say, and it's kind of flipped because in the not too distant past, African Americans had to have a education, they had to have a degree, they had to have all of this just to be considered for a job. And now it's turning to the point where there's more and more of that happening. And ironically, they're trying to water that down now and say that it really doesn't count as much. And that's because the scales have flipped, I think.
And let me give you an example. I'm going to kind of hit on what you just talked about, Michael, and then the history of DEI and stuff. So we went to the Cowboy Museum, and we've all watched Gunsmoke, right? One of my favorite characters on Gunsmoke is Festus. Festus is hilarious. Festus was a very, very talented man. He sang opera. I mean, he was an incredibly talented man. And so Robert and I were talking, and Robert was asking me, how did I get into the acting business and do some of the things, some of the jobs I was able to do? And I said, well, Robert, you got to be very lucky. I mean, you got to be good, but it takes some luck. And pretty much, and I think everybody from Brad Pitt on down to me would tell you that's the case. You got to have some luck. So I was reading about Festus because I like Festus. Well, Festus's father-in-law was John Ford. John Ford was the most prolific director of Westerns in television history. So Festus was a DEI actor.
Absolutely.
Festus got some help.
Yes,
Think about how talented he was, but he needed some help to get there. He needed somebody to open that door for him. And that's all it is. It doesn't mean you don't have the talent. He certainly had the talent. He's probably one of the most famous actors from Gunsmoke. He probably had more talent than James Arness, who was actually pretty boring. But his father-in-law was Mr. Ford.
Wow.
So that sort of answers that whole situation,
Amazing. Yeah. Well, James Brown always said, open up the door, I'll
get it myself. Barbara, you got something else you want to talk about this morning?
I wanted to talk a little bit about something that came across my mind. I am a person who has grown to be very, very strong in nutrition. And in Birmingham, we have been having an overwhelming number of young African Americans who are angry and just killing one another in Birmingham. And we were away overseas, and 12 people were killed in the weekend in Birmingham while we were away. We heard it on the news. And while I was in Portugal and Spain, they said, now, you have to be careful in these cities. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they said, because this city, when we go down to the square, it's known for pickpockets. Like pickpockets. I'm ready for, warfare and police everywhere. I said, so I had my backpack on. And so what I did is I just simply turned it around. So my backpack was here, my arm, it looped over that way, and I was carrying. And the lady looked at me and she said, That's the way you carry your backpack. I thought, my gosh, is that all we have to be afraid of while we're here? I'm good. Needless to say, I didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that was an article that came out that talked about nutrition and aggression. And that what they found, they did a couple of studies, and what they found is that in a lot of situations, people who are aggressive to the point of violence, there is a nutritional deficiency, and it's usually B1. And so I started thinking about that, and I said, well, a lot of these communities, especially in Birmingham, because I live here, I can talk about Birmingham, they don't have grocery stores. The grocery stores are gone, so you have a food desert. So what are these young people eating? They're going to the gas station or to the local fast food place and eating, and they are not getting the B1 vitamin, which is so important for your nervous system and for how your body fires itself to be healthy. So, I'm concerned that we as middle Americans, all three of us, we're educated, we have or have had good careers, need to be looking into having talks at the local student the local place where the students gathered, Boys and Girls Club, and talk about nutritional value, how important that is, and how do you get it? How do you get the fresh vegetables that will help you to be healthy and strong and balance in your nervous system and in your whole body makeup? There's a young ladies it's sort of like a home where the young ladies who have been abandoned by their parents, and they are or the state helps to fund it, and they have put in a garden, and so the girls eat from the garden, and it has helped with the emotional stability because they're getting the vitamins and nutrients that they need. And so a lot of times what happens is people are just nutritionally deficient because they don't have the vitamins and the nutrients. They've also done a study in some of the prisons, and there they find hypertension, heart issues, B12 fires all of that in a positive, B1 fires that in a very positive way. But even us, and I am one of them, iron deficiency, but more of a borderline. But I had a real serious problem with B12. And I didn't realize that's what I needed. But when you look at your panels that you get every month or every 6 months when you go to the doctor, you need to read it. I was totally deficient to the point where I had to have injections once a month and take B12 every day. Now I'm on the plus side of the ledger. I'm more energetic. I'm not as irritable and probably not as angry because I've gotten my balance back. So I think that that's something that we really need to be talking about from time to time, nutrition and how it balances out, and how young people really need to have balanced nutrition every day in order to move forward. So when you have politicians who want to get rid of breakfast and lunch for students, there are going to be more problems. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how different things are depending on where you are in the state of Georgia. And what I'm about to tell you is, and this is a great story, in Douglasville, Georgia,
Mhm.
north of Atlanta, suburb, there was this white construction guy in line at a convenience store. And he was buying a soda and a couple things. And when the cashier rang him up, he didn't have his money. He didn't have money on him. And he said, "Oh, I got to go to the car to get my wallet." So he rushed out to his car to get his wallet. And there's a black man standing behind him who paid for his soda and his snacks and stuff. So when the guy returns, the cashier said, "Well, he paid for it already for you." And so the guy turned to this black guy and said, "Well, thank you so much," and started talking to him. Finds out that the black guy is down on his luck. He and his family is staying in an extended stay hotel there in Douglasville while he's trying to get back up on his feet. And the guy, he was so touched by this that this guy whose family and him is staying in an extended stay hotel, he was willing to pay for a soda and a drink for a stranger that happened to be white. So he decided he was going to help him out, and he started a Facebook GoFundMe page and told the story
Wow.
and raised $35,000 in 24 hours
Wow.
for this man and presented it to him, and they are friends now. So, you know, that's just a story to say how people can get along and work it out. And this had nothing to do with politics, so to speak, you know? And if the politicians would stop trying so much to divide us and talk about bringing us together, it's unbelievable what we could do as a nation. But they happen to think that the only way to get elected is to spread fear among the people that's supporting the other side so they could get elected. But this is an excellent example of humankind and kindness and how it's rewarded. And people do that every day. We just don't hear enough about it.
Well, I agree with that, but I also think that when we use identifiers like blue states and red states and Republicans and Democrats, all that stuff is meant to divide. You're a liberal, you're a conservative, you're so and so forth. You know, well, what are you, Tom? I'm Tom Gossam Jr. I am a product of my environment. I am a product of what I have learned and studied over the years. I'm not a blue state, a red state, a Republican. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, to be honest with you. I think when we can get away from the identifiers, because identifiers make you lazy. You say this is a blue state, so that state is supposed to vote this way. You say so-and-so is a conservative. So you're going he or she can only think within a certain framework. That's to me, that's a big part of the problem. We put people in categories and we don't want to get to know them, because if we get to know them, we might like them. You know, he may be different from you, but you find out that man staying at the extended stay hotel had something in common with the man he was helping to buy the snack. And so I think if we could get away from that, but I don't think that we will, because it sort of fuels capitalism in some ways, in just my opinion. So
yeah.
Well,
And it showed that this man had a good heart, even though he was down on his luck. And he probably came from a very good family, because he was willing to share what little he had with a guy who all of a sudden, even though he had money in the truck, he had nothing at the cashier. So it touched his heart. And that's what we need. We need to touch one another's heart in a very soft and gentle way.
And you mentioned that we all three have been educated and raised by good parents and so on and so forth. And yeah, we were. But at the same time, we also maybe grew up in a house that, at least I'll say me, I mean, we certainly weren't rich. My dad always had 2 jobs to make things work. But I grew up in an environment where, no, we didn't have an overabundance of things. But if there was somebody that needed help, a relative or somebody in the community, then I know my mom and dad were going to stand up and help them.
Absolutely.
That's just the way things were, and probably the way things ought to be. I mean, he helped that guy. He didn't care what that guy was. He didn't ask him, now, wait a minute, are you a Republican? Because I'll buy the snack for you if you ain't a Republican. You know, yeah, I do. I just think.
And that shows you how silly that is. If you're not this, then I'm not going to help you. Well,
right.
Yeah.
And I live in a place where they're running. If you're running for the school board and they put on their sign conservative, what the hell has that got to do with working on the school board, man? You know, what do you mean when you say you're conservative and you're running for the school board? You know, I think we've allowed our politics to get a little lazy.
It is.
And we can identify people, and we don't have to go into what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about on the school board? Are you going to help these kids or not? These kids ain't conservative or liberal or nothing. They
don't know. They ask you, what is conservative? I don't know what that word means.
Right.
You know?
What does that mean? So anyway, that's just me. I've always been an outsider, so
well, I have too. When you grow up a preacher's daughter, you are the outsider. Trust me. Nobody comes to your house. Nobody wants you at their birthday party. They don't want you hanging around.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh.
Now the flip side, I have to share this with you, and it's kind of heartbreaking, is down in Griffin, Georgia, which is not too far from Atlanta.
I know where it is.
There is an apartment complex that all of the people have been put out of the apartment complex because it is overrun with infestation and poor living conditions. It's one of these apartment complexes that is subsidized housing for people that are poor and need a roof and shelter. So you have these companies, in many instances, large corporations that are able to get the money to buy these apartment complexes, and then they have a contract with the Department of HUD to supply housing to poor people, and they get paid from HUD because you guys are familiar with Section 8 housing.
Section 8.
Well, this apartment complex is so run down, according to the story, they have rats as big as puppies in there.
Oh,
and they have
oh my goodness.
I'm not lying. I didn't make that up, Tom.
I'm not surprised.
I'm with you.
I hear you.
Can you imagine a rat as big as a puppy in your apartment? And
lots of them.
The wiring and stuff. And there's one lady that's 81 years old. And she said, I thought I was, and they just had an eviction notice. You have to leave right away and stuff. And she was concerned that she was going to have to try to move all her stuff at the age of 81. But the companies came in and they helped to move them. And the city has stepped in because the inspector for the city, he's the one that condemned it and stuff. And so the city is going to help the people find placement while they do something. But this company called Millennial Housing Management Group, they had another place in Atlanta that had the same issue. Okay, so my question is, why are they continuing to be a government contractor for housing and HUD when they have this type of stuff? The part of the reason for them doing it is because they were trying to help the people themselves, help the people get a leg up, and they're being subsidized by the federal government. And yet and still, they're not doing their jobs, okay? But they have these government contracts.
Yeah.
That may be a little bit of affirmative action because I doubt there's anybody that looked like me that's doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying it's another Festus, huh?
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Don't kill the messenger. I'm only the communicator.
I hear what you're saying.
Oh Lord! So we all could use a father-in-law like John Ford, huh?
Yes, indeed. Help us out. We need somebody to open the door.
Barbara, you got anything else you want to play on us this morning? We got about 5 more minutes.
I just want to say it has been a joy being with you all again this morning. Lots of good laughter, lots of good information, and you're coming up on an anniversary soon, right, Tom?
We're coming up on, you mean the show?
The show,
yes. 4 years.
4 years. You've done about 200 shows?
This is number 203.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
And thank you. But I will say that I think Michael's been on all of them except within 1 or 2. Barbara and the other Barbara as well.
Yes.
And Sean and Emily have worked behind the scenes to put it all together. And Sean started doing the Got a Minute, and she's now we should call it Got 5 Minutes, but that's okay. She does a great job.
She does. She does a great job.
She does a great
and I love
job.
today's Got a Minute. That was great.
Yeah. So it's been good.
One
Michael,
thing I
you
do
got
wanna- One thing I do want to say, Tom, is for our viewers and for young people, I think one of the greatest things for education is travel. This country is a very large country.
agree.
You can learn so much. And if you just visit Alabama and Oklahoma, you will see the relationship that Europeans were not here first. You can talk about Tuskegee. You can talk about Talladega. These are all Native American names.
That's right.
And I have a friend, AJ Ruffin, who was born in Pushmataha, Alabama. I thought, where in the world is that? So I went to Pushmataha. It's right there on the Alabama-Mississippi line. So having my Oklahoma experience, I asked him, I said, well, there's another city in the United States that's named Pushmataha. He goes, really, where? Well, where else? Oklahoma. Pushmataha, Oklahoma. So that you can find so many connections if you just step out of your comfort zone and allow yourself to experience something new. And once you start experiencing it in the States, you realize the whole world is a wonderful place to experience. It really is.
And I think this whole thing, I mean, we talk about DEI and it'll come up with something else. It'll be named something else.
Sure, absolutely.
But man, history is the most important thing you can do. And you can educate yourself through history. And to be up there, to listen to the people talk. The guys, they said a prayer before the and they don't call it powwow, they call it a celebration, before the celebration started. And the guy was praying. And he prayed for everybody's unborn grandchildren. I'd never heard anybody say a prayer like that.
Wow.
That they were going to pray for your unborn grandchildren, that they come into a world that maybe is different in some ways from today. And I thought that was just really, really beautiful. And just the history itself. And, I think you talk, those people have a lot of reasons to be angry.
Yes.
They were murdered in their sleep many times. The scalping, the French, they got the scalping from the French. They came over and they started cutting people's hair off their head and stuff and wearing it around as a trophy. There is I don't know if you guys have started reading. I think we talked about Caste, that book Caste, C-A-S-T-E, and how they would just kill people because they were different. I just think that there's a lot we can learn from history. And I live in Florida where we have a dumbass governor who says we shouldn't learn history.
Yeah, he did. He said that. Yeah.
Which, he's a political theater guy. And
he is.
He said he reminds me of George Wallace. He says things for effect and to get votes.
He said DEI is toxic and has no place in our public universities. Yeah, that's that governor.
But that appeals to a certain element.
It does.
Of society, and that's why he's saying it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this: he ain't got much. He's what we call in the black community a weak ass man, because Trump dogged him out, talked about him like a dog, called him nicknames, so on and so forth, and he didn't say nothing back.
No. And I'm so glad these nicknames that Trump has come up for Kamala Harris has just rolled off her back like a ward off of a duck's back. Nothing sticks. Nothing sticks.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's having trouble with her.
He's having trouble. May he have more. I'm done.
Tell us how you really feel, Barbara.
I thought I'd just throw a little hint. I thought I'd throw a hint, Michael.
Okay, anything, you know, and I am from Birmingham and a big supporter of Birmingham.
Yes.
I always, when I was living in Los Angeles or even here, I always brag on Birmingham. It's my hometown, and I am proud of it. But I'm sorry that they're having these killings and stuff. That's just,
Yeah.
I
We have
don't,
a lot to work on.
we didn't grow up like that.
No.
That's tough
It is.
to swallow. That kids are going out killing kids. Anyway, any final thing from you guys? Okay.
Nope.
All right.
I
Well,
think we said it all.
okay. Well, thank you, Barbara, for being with us. It's been
Thank you,
great.
Michael.
We're
Thank
glad.
you, Tom.
Barbara Wallace Edwards is probably going to be scared now that we're going to fire her and get you.
I don't think so. She has nothing to fear.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I know you are.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you both. All right.
All right.
Appreciate it. Okay. My closing comment today is pretty short. It says it's the start of the football season. I hope your team wins this weekend. And if they don't win, well, just take solace in the fact that they'll play again next weekend. And so that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. We want to thank our G-list guests. We're going to say Barbara Pitts Larkin was our G-list guest, even though she was on the round table. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, Joyce, and Barbara. And that's it for this August the 27th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you've got an extra one, give one to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe.